How one walks through the world, the endless small adjustments of balance, is affected by the shifting weight of beautiful things. I grew up in a single room house in a modest old Delhi neighborhood, while I did my schooling from an institution catering to the elite. Each day, ever since I can remember, provided me with stark contrasting experiences. This everyday contrast made me vulnerable. It also made me an introvert. I found refuge in the world of books and stories. After a brief stint as a student of engineering and physics, I majored in philosophy from the Delhi University in 2009. The study of philosophy had left me with many questions, and I knew to find my answers, I had to go out and also look within. The camera became my companion, and over the next 9 years, I traveled through the length and breadth of this country, making many handmade books, and in them I documented the stories and the lives that touched me. What I share here is a glimpse into my inner and my outer worlds. This is how my bookmaking apparatus looks like. I basically make handmade books. I make my books on my own. I buy the paper, I buy the thread, I buy the glue, make everything together. What I basically do is I travel with this apparatus wherever I'm going, and I make a little book around that place. The reason I do that is because, for me it was just not enough to buy an existing copy or a notebook and put my pictures in that. I really wanted to understand what bookmaking is about. I really wanted to understand the rigor that goes into it. So I've always delved into memories of my childhood, things and objects that held my imagination, and I've sort of channelized it into my practice. This particular book is inspired by the quintessential gift box that I saw as a child in many cartoons. This book borrows its form from the Tippy Tippy Tap Toe that I'm sure many of us played during our childhood. All right, so amongst the many journeys that I undertook, this is the one that I would like to share with you in some kind of detail. So in 2011, I was commissioned to photograph a hospital in Jaipur, and the hospital housed a hospice known as the Avedna Ashram. I used to visit the hospice often to make photographs, and during one such visit, I found this drawing copy, which had 32 drawings of the mountains done by some child, but the notebook in itself was nameless. It got my attention, I was intrigued by the object, and I decided to hold on to it. So for the next few weeks, I tried to find the owner of this notebook. Who could this child be? What was this child doing in the hospital? How can I find this child? But due to stringent privacy policies, I was not allowed access to the hospital records. I spoke to everyone at the hospital, the patients, the staff, the attendants, but no one seemed to know anything. I realized that the book revealed very little. The answers I was seeking lay outside its pages. So basically what I did was to sort of give closure to my curiosity and the restlessness that took over me while going through this nameless drawing book. I decided to travel through the mountains and make photographs inspired by these 32 drawings. So what you see on the left is the drawing, and on the right is my response, my photograph as a response. And I kept traveling, I traveled through the country just looking for photographs that would sort of be the right response or would be the right, sort of would have that inspiration from these drawings. While on the hospital front, I kept looking for the child. I had nearly given up when I finally met Asha, a nursing intern, who told me that she sort of attended to a child who was really, really fond of drawing. And with Asha's help, I traced the child to a village, to a remote village in this district in Rajasthan called Baran. So after a few weeks, I left for Baran, and I reached the village, and I was directed to Shaukat's house. Shaukat was a cousin of the girl's father. Shaukat informed me that her name was Aini, and Aini basically is an Urdu word which means spring, the source of life. And she passed away in January 2012. The family had left the village after her death. Aini Hasina Banu had died even before I found her notebook. Closure became really essential, and the only way I could find it was to trace the girl's family. And I again took Shaukat's help, and after months and months of traveling through North India, I located them in an industrial estate on the outskirts of Delhi. I met Anwar, Aini's father, and we met twice, and on both the occasions he was drunk. He still had that self-loathing and guilt. Yet in his drunken confessions, he drew the most intimate portrait of Aini. one that only a father would know. So he called her Shakroon, and I asked him, what does that word mean? He said that the name in itself has no meaning. He just loves the sound of it. A name without a meaning is like a poem which is free from the burden of explaining itself. According to Anwar, Aini's drawings were never about the future, were never about her aspirations to travel to the mountains. It was an acceptance of the fact that she will never ever get to see the mountains. We spent 2 days together, and at the end of it, Anwar gave me her crayons, her doll, and the only photograph he had of her. I hope her story is told, were Anwar's last words to me that evening. In 2015, this 4-year-long journey culminated into the artist's book, This World of Dew. It is a soliloquy on loss and remembrance, a young child's longing for the mountains, and a photographer's search for that child, whose abandoned drawing book he found in a hospice. What I share next is a glimpse into the book I made, which has Aini's drawings, my photographs as a response, and the diary entries I made across 4 years. That's Aini Asina Banu, and she is almost, as old as you are, probably a year or two younger. She was making these drawings when she was an 8-year-old kid, and she perhaps passed away by the time she was 12. Now, Aini's death serves as a reminder that we are not born equal. All of us are not born equal. But her life, her work, is a testimony to the power of imagination. She lives on in my mind, in your mind, and in the minds of everyone who has turned the pages of this book. Aini and I made a book together. I consider that book to be equally hers as it is mine. But we never met. We did not know each other. But as long as there's space for wonder and belief in our life, as long as we do not lose our ability to empathize and love, stories will be continued to be told and they will be heard. And honestly, in this day and age of information, in this day and age of mad, senseless competition, in this day and age of rat race, the pursuit of knowledge is where the promise of beauty and hope resides. This is the back jacket of the book I made across 9 years. And to me, what is written on the spine has been a guiding principle. And I was exactly in your stage about 10, 12 years ago when I read this beautiful text from an article by Pico. And I'll read out that line for you. It says, sometimes things that we least understand deserve our deepest trust. Thank you.